Hello everyone. In this video, I want to go over how to create and position an image plane to be used for modeling reference. To make an image plane, come up here to create free image plane, and you're going to notice this little square show up in the center. Let's load in an image by opening up the attribute editor. I'm going to hit Control A, and right here on image name, I'm going to click the little folder icon. Now this is already going to my source images folder, and within this reference folder, I have my images that I want. I'm going to be using this phone as reference. So this first image I'm going to set up is the front perspective of the phone. I'm going to go ahead and click open, and you're going to see the image show up just like so. Now, what I want to do is I want to make sure I set up this image to not only be on the ground plane right here, which is the grid, but I also want to scale it up accurately. So I'm going to go ahead and change over to this front camera. I'm going to go ahead and both position and scale it accurately. So first, I'm looking at the center of this device right here. In this case, it's the center column. I want to make sure that this is as centered as possible to the grid. Next up, I want to go ahead and actually translate it and start scaling it up. In this case, I do have an image right over here. If I look at it, this device is actually 29.21 centimeters tall. By default, Maya does have its grid set to centimeters. You can check this by opening up the preferences over on the bottom right. There's this little guy running away from a gear. And if I click over on settings, you'll see that my scaling is currently set to centimeters. What I want to do is scale this image to be 29 of these squares tall. Now, I can keep on scaling and translating this up, but to make this a little bit easier, what I'm going to do is I want to actually move the pivots of this manipulator. To do so, I'm going to hit D. You should get this manipulator like so, and now I can actually start moving the pivot. Now what I want to do is move the pivots first left and right to make sure that it is centered like so, and I want to move this pivot down to the bottom of the device, and I'm looking for to line up right about at the feet. With this setup, now I can actually move this manipulator down to the ground like so, and when I start scaling, it's going to scale from the ground up. And this should make it a lot easier to do so. Next up, instead of trying to count each individual square, I'm going to come up here to display grid, open up the dialog box, and I'm looking for this right here where it says on axis. And I can check this on both of these, hit apply, and what you'll see is these numbers now show up. And since it is 29 centimeters tall, I'm looking for 29 right about there. And that looks pretty good. If I go into perspective, you can see it like so. I'm going to go ahead and do this one more time for a side profile of the phone. I'm going to come up here to create free image plane, click the little folder. In this one, I'm going to click number 5. I just want to follow the same exact process. So I'm going to go ahead and translate this over a little bit. Now, depending on your image, you may not be able to make these line up perfectly. Since this image does have some perspective to it, what I'm doing is just trying to get it close enough. Since this is a side profile, I do need to rotate this by 90 degrees and punch in 90 perfectly. Going to go ahead and translate this up to be on the grid, kind of like so. And from here, I can just use this previous image. Just try and scale it up to be as close as possible. Since both these images were shot in a perspective, there's no way they're going to be perfect. So we're just looking at trying to get it as close as we can. And then I'm going to go ahead and translate these both back a little bit. This way I have enough room to model. Lastly, just to make this easier when I begin modeling, what I want to do is I want to lock these image planes so I don't mess them up in the future. So what I'm going to do is select both of these, come over on the bottom right to this display window. I'm going to click this rightmost button. This is going to add both of these image planes to a display layer. And if I click the third icon twice, what it's going to do is going to make it to where I can no longer select these. And I'm going to go ahead and double click this. I'm just going to rename this image planes layer. Hit save. And now when I'm modeling, I can no longer select these by mistake and accidentally move them. If you do ever need to move them or adjust them in the future, you can always just come over here to the outliner where it'll still allow you to select it. But in viewport, you can no longer select it.